Kind of follows on this discussion between Senator Hirono and the points that Senator Cassidy has just raised. And I noted in my opening statement that since the 1990s, nearly all revenue credited annually to LWCF has been from the OCS receipts. And I think, and LWCF also gets additional mandatory appropriations under GOMESA, and I think we saw that in Senator Cassidy's chart that he had up there. But I guess the question, and it may be directed to you, Ms. Comey, and maybe you, Mr. Gould, but some have suggested that we need to either dramatically restrict or even eliminate fossil fuel production in federal areas. I know several of the individuals that are in the running for the presidency right now have said, look, first thing that they would do if elected is to completely eliminate fossil fuel production on federal lands. Tell me what happens then to programs like the Reclamation Fund or Land and Water Conservation Fund, because right now it is a correct statement, is it not, that they are getting their funding that comes to LWCF to help with whether it is federal land acquisitions or whether it is stateside improvements, is coming from the offshore OCS receipts. Is that, am I accurately stating that? Mr. Gould?
Yes, thank you for the question, Madam Chair. That's an accurate statement. The 900 million that goes into the fund, and then the additional 125 million that goes in from the GOMESA funds comes directly from the offshore. A very small percentage comes from motor boat fees and some federal land acquisition, but that's a very small percentage. Over 850 million is deposited from the revenues that Honor receives from the oil and gas industry in the Gulf of Mexico, and the full 125 million comes from that same fund.
So there's been some discussion around here. Last year, we made permanent the authorization of the Land and Water Conservation Fund. That was something that many of us thought was an important thing to do in terms of permanent authorization. Now the discussion is mandatory funding for LWCF. But if you don't have these OCS receipts, how do you meet that now mandatory requirement?
That's another good question, and again, it would have to be from some other place within the Treasury. Would have to then be appropriated funds for that mandatory part of the process.
Ms. Comey, any further comments on that?
No, that seems correct. As Mr. Gould said, the money currently for the LWCF comes almost entirely on both the mandatory state program side and the money coming in, the almost 900 million under the LWCF Act. That's almost all from offshore revenues. There are these other two sources, couple of sources for the main LWCF funding, but they have not been sufficient to provide more than a very small fraction.
So then when those who are not in they're not part of the GOMESA states, they're not producing states on the offshore, when they question whether or not there's any benefit that comes to them, it is a fair and accurate statement to say that with the LWCF funds that come and go out to all 50 states, that all 50 states enjoy the benefit from those receipts that are then made part of the LWCF distribution.
That's correct.